Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about 1985's action classic, Commando. Is this an action classic? It kind of is, in a cheesy, over-the-top, only in the 80s kind of way. As we all know, if you're an 80s kid like me and you grew up on this movie, it stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as John Matrix, Vernon Wells as Bennett, our main adversary throughout the movie. Bill Duke's in this movie. Alyssa Milano plays John Matrix's daughter. Ray Dong Chong's in this movie as not really a love interest, although possibly sets it up as a love interest, but they don't really show anything. This movie came out in 1985. It was directed by Mark L. Lester. Originally, this was produced by Joel Silver. Originally, Joel Silver wanted John McTiernan to direct this film. John McTiernan turned him down, actually. He went off to make his first film, Nomads. Now, as we all know, he came back and worked with Joel Silver and Schwarzenegger on Predator, and then with Joel Silver again on Die Hard. So it all came around, but they hired Mark L. Lester to do the film. Now, before this, notable films for Mark Lester were Class of 1984, which if you've never seen, I recommend. It's a cool little film. And Firestarter. He got the job after John Carpenter had been fired after The Failure of the Thing, which kind of sounds odd saying The Failure of the Thing, because that movie's awesome. But they fired John Carpenter and they hired him to do Firestarter, and this was his next film. And as we all know, if you've seen this film, John Matrix, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, is a retired Special Forces operator, and he's living in the mountains with his little girl. But to start the movie, we see Bill Duke and a couple other guys going around and killing these different people. They don't say who they are, but they just kill these different people in different ways. And then we cut to John Matrix. This is our introduction, as it's pure 80s cheese. Because as we know, a lot of times in the 80s, every guy that was an action star was a big muscled mountain dude until Bruce Willis came along, obviously. Although Chuck Norris was in good shape, but he wasn't as big as Schwarzenegger or Stallone. But oh well. And we see Schwarzenegger cutting down a tree, all big and stacked, and he's walking down the mountain with a log over his shoulder. I mean, that basically tells you the template for the rest of the movie, if you're supposed to take this seriously or not. Because it's just absurd and cheesy all at the same time, but it's so glorious and, just 80s action cinema kind of way. But so Matrix is at his house with his daughter, and his helicopter shows up with one of his old commanders, and he informs him that his old team is being wiped out one by one. They have no idea who's doing it, but they're investigating it, and he leaves 2 Marines with him to help protect them. Which, as we know, now, not then, but Schwarzenegger doesn't need nobody to protect him, right? He's a one-man army. It's pretty much his whole career. Well, he leaves the 2 Marines, and as soon as the chopper's out of eyesight, the bad guys show up and start attacking Matrix's cabin. John Matrix has his little girl hiding in her bed, and he goes to his gun safe, or gun room, and gets some weapons, and he starts fighting back. Both Marines get killed, and unfortunately, John Matrix and his daughter get taken as hostages. When John awakes from his slumber, because they drug him, he realizes Bennett's still alive. Well, before he was taken, realizes Bennett's still alive, and he used to work with Bennett, used to serve with him, and everybody was under the impression that Bennett was dead. Well, no, he's not, and he's very pissed at John Matrix, and he wants revenge. Well, Bennett's working with this other guy who wants to overthrow the government of this country. So their whole thing is, if John Matrix wants to get his daughter back, he has to go to this country and kill these government officials, and then he can have his daughter back, which obviously they have no intentions of doing. They plan on killing them both, but that's what they tell him. He gets on a plane with this other gentleman who's supposed to keep an eye on him, and the plane starts taking off. He kills the guy, jumps out of the plane, the wheel well of the plane at an absurd height, lands in a swamp, and survives with no injuries. It's over the top, folks. It's over the top, but it's freaking glorious. Schwarzenegger starts wreaking havoc on these bad guys. One by one, he starts killing them all. There's a cool mall scene that's over the top, but only Schwarzenegger could pull it off and be entertained by it. And then we get where he's going to... all the bad guys retreat to their island with this big-ass mansion on it. And he flies there with Ray Dong Chong, and he's about to unleash war on these pricks. And he kills them one by one, or dozens by dozens. Nobody seems to be able to hit him with a bullet. And at the end, we get our showdown with him and Bennett in the steam tunnels beneath the mansion. And they're fighting and throwing one-liners back and forth. Only in the 80s could you get away with this shit. And Schwarzenegger rips a pipe off the wall, throws it at Bennett. It impales him, and he yells, let off some steam, Bennett. You gotta love those 80s one-liners. They're freaking glorious. And that's pretty much the movie. He gets his daughter back. We have a happy ending. Is this movie meant to be taken seriously? Absolutely not. If you take this seriously, you're going to hate this freaking movie to high heaven. It's meant to be enjoyed for the action on screen. And it's just cheesy in a way that's enduring. It's endured all these years. It's considered a minor action classic. I mean, the Terminator was Arnold's big break. He had already done the Conan movies. But this movie was a decent-sized hit that propelled him into Predator 2 years later. And then after that, Arnold is who he is now. Well, he had that run where he was one of the biggest movie stars in the world. So Commando was a tremendous stepping stone. They wanted to make a sequel, actually. And this is a funny little bit of trivia. They wanted to make a sequel, but Schwarzenegger turned it down and didn't want to play the character again. Well, they readjusted the script, and that's what became Die Hard. Yes, Die Hard kind of came out of wanting to make a sequel to Commando. So, good thing that Schwarzenegger turned it down, because we got Bruce Willis as John McClane, and we had another action classic on our hands from the 80s. But yeah, Commando's a fun time. If you don't take it seriously and just sit there, turn the brain off, and watch Arnold slaughter a bunch of guys, he's easy to root for, obviously. It's why we loved Arnold all those years. And yeah, it's a fun time at the movies, and it's 80s cheesiness is glorious in all the right ways. Now, obviously, Predator is a better movie. Terminator is a better movie. But there's no denying that this is just a fun time. And I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. I can't give it a higher than that. I still watch it at least once a year. But I don't think it deserves to go higher than that. I mean, it's a fun time. It definitely is. If you just want to sit there and watch a bunch of action take place and not want to think about the plot too much, perfect film. Perfect film. And there's nothing wrong with that, folks. There's nothing wrong with just sitting down and enjoying a good 80s action classic. So, yeah, that's it, my review for Commando. I'm assuming if you're an 80s kid like me, you've seen this many times. Let me know what you thought of the movie or think of the movie down below. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. And that is it for me for 1985's Commando. I will be back soon with another review. Have a great one. See ya.